and perhaps even eventual genocide?
Well, history is replete with that very fact. Just about every time a government or governments have decided to disarm their citizens, the result of that disarmament has been all kinds of chaos and bedlam, including, as you said, sometimes even genocide. Under our Constitution, we have a right as people to keep and bear arms. And humanly speaking, it's the Second Amendment. And the fact that the American people in this country have, for all of these 200 years now, have been an armed and resilient, resourceful, determined population that has kept us free. Under God, it's the right to keep and bear arms that has protected our freedoms to this point.
Do you think Obama is a Christian as he proclaims, or do you think he has ties to the Muslim or the Islamic faith?
I don't know whether Obama is a Christian or not, but there's no question that he has. Well, it seems to me to be no question that he has ties to the Islamic faith. He was schooled in his younger years, as I understand it, in Muslim theology and doctrines. So it would seem to me that, yes, there's a certain degree of connection between him and Muslim teaching.
I'd like to ask you a question as a pastor. Do you think we're living in the end times as prophesied in the Bible?
I think we've been living in the end times in this entire New Testament period. Do I believe that the Lord is coming soon? I would like to believe that. But the thing that I would like to make clear to my Christian friends that are listening is that the timing of Christ's return belongs to God. That's not for us to know. I think in Acts chapter 1, Jesus made it very clear when the disciples asked him, "Are you going to come and restore the kingdom now?" And Jesus said, "It's not for you to know the times and the seasons." There are certain things that God has given us to know, and there are certain things that we are not given to know. The coming of Christ is one of the things that we are not given to know. We have a responsibility to do what is right. We have a responsibility as Christians to be the light and to be the salt of the earth. The light means preaching the gospel, preaching the word of God. The salt means standing against evil, standing up as a protector for the things that are right. And as Christians in America, we have a double duty because we have not only the Christian responsibility but the civic responsibility to stand up for the principles upon which our country was built. If we stand back and just wash our hands and say, well, the Lord's coming soon, there's nothing we can do about it, then we're doomed. We have a responsibility to fight for what is right, and that's what we should be doing.
We have covered in detail the decline of our currency and our economy. What would you do to stabilize the dollar and try to get us out of this recession?
I think the biggest problem with what we're facing economically right now is the high cost of energy. With gas around $4 a gallon and climbing, the entire economy is feeling the effects of that. Virtually everything we buy, our housing market is affected by it, our food prices are affected by it, labor prices, insurance, everything is affected by the cost of energy. And of course the reason for this is we have an insane energy policy where we are dependent upon OPEC and other foreign nations for our oil. This is absurd. When we have enough oil under the soil of America, in Alaska, for example, there's more oil than there is in Saudi Arabia. We have enough oil in Alaska to last this country for 200 years or more. That does not include the other oil that's available to us in the continental United States and off the Gulf of Mexico. It's absolutely ludicrous that we would be dependent upon OPEC. I believe this is intentional. I believe it's a fabrication of those who control government and the economy to keep us dependent upon these OPEC nations, to force this kind of situation upon us. If I were president, I would close down the Department of Energy. I would get Washington, D.C. out of the energy business altogether. We would open up those wells that we know that are there and are not pumping. We would drill for the new oil that we know is there. We would start the nuclear energy plants again that we haven't built in over 35 years. I think we could become energy independent, and the prices of energy would plummet, and the entire economy would rebound.
Pastor Baldwin, I would like to get your perspective as both a pastor and being heavily involved in politics. So over the years, I've noticed throughout Washington, D.C., we see pagan-type symbolism everywhere, such as the statue on top of the Capitol building. I would just like to get your perspective on that. What do you think is going on there? Why are these symbols there?
Okay, what symbols are you referring to now?
Like the statue on top of the Capitol building, the goddess of the underworld.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure that that's what the architects intended when they created that. Maybe you are more educated in that than I am.
I'd like to ask you, in recent weeks we've seen food riots in various places around the world, and as you well know, in the Old Testament, when God judged a nation, sometimes He sent them famine. Do you think there's a significant food shortage maybe in the near future in America?
Oh, I think that that's possible. On the other hand, let's face the fact that America is a bountiful land. I mean, the soil in America is rich. We have the ability to grow, and of course, God could send famine, disaster, should He choose to do so. But there's no question that the American nation has the resources with which to feed ourselves. And again, you've got the federal government paying people not to plant crops and manipulating the food supply, telling farmers what they can grow, what they can't grow. The entire farming industry in America is manipulated by the federal government. So whatever we are seeing in terms currently of downturn and recession and all those things, it's a result directly of the policies emanating from Washington, D.C.
Pastor Baldwin, what is your interpretation of the 16th Amendment?
Well, I would repeal the 16th Amendment if I were president. I would work to repeal it, I guess I should say. I believe that direct taxation upon the income of the American people is unconstitutional, and I would get rid of it. I think that the IRS is unconstitutional as an institution. The Federal Reserve is unconstitutional. I would work to remove America from the Federal Reserve System if I were president.
The Constitution Party be on the ballot here in North Carolina?
North Carolina is one of those states where independent parties are almost squeezed out of existence. There's about 7 states in the United States where the state legislatures have made it so difficult for third parties to get on the ballot that it's next to impossible. North Carolina is one of those states. You folks up there in North Carolina should really send a message to your state legislators from both parties about this, because North Carolina is an egregious example of how difficult it is. There's a few others: Texas, Oklahoma, Indiana, Illinois, Georgia. Those few states are very difficult. Unless God gives us a lot of money quickly, we may not be on the ballot in North Carolina. We look to be on the ballot in at least 43 states. There's a possibility that we could be on the ballot in 47 states. But North Carolina is one of the most difficult states in the country for third parties to get on the ballot.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. We'd like to have you back on again, and I wish you the best of luck. And in closing, I'd just like to give you an opportunity to tell the listeners how we can get in touch with you and anything that you might want to say.
Thank you very much. Let me give you 3 websites. First is the Constitution.